Welcome back to Mallala Raceway, round 7 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship before an absolutely packed crowd here today. Well, one of our cameramen with the best view of the race, perhaps, is down at our Wreck Air High. That's Edward Scissorlift, taking in all the action today. That's quite a view, and our thanks to Wreck Air Hire for their assistance in today's broadcast. Well, we have a crackerjack field. Here today, quality, not quantity, for the 7th round of the Touring Car Championship. As I said earlier, Nissan started the campaign with the GTR here at Mallala last season with Mark Scaife, qualified for the 2nd row in the field. Didn't go on and win that race, but gee whiz, he looks good today. We're not too far off the start. Can the Nissans come up with another 1-2 here? Field in position, Alan Jones at the tail. 10 seconds away from the start. Mobil 1 race cam with Peter Brock. We're ready to go racing for the Galar at Mallala. Lights turn to green, and it's the 2 Nissans off the line with Mark Scaife. Jimmy Richards getting away smartly. A brilliant start from Johnny Bow as they all start rubbing fenders getting into that first turn. Glenn Seaton snuck through there while they were doing that, and Win Percy got away to a good start. So too did Peter Brock. They come through there, down past the pits, the right-hander, and the 2 Nissans already at this stage of the race starting to open the gap as they go into the right-hander here. A change of cars for Mark Scaife. He has moved into the number 2 car, the car that Jimmy Richards has been campaigning, but by crikey, I'll tell you what, has he been fast here at Mallala over the last couple of days.
What about that opening corner with Percy, Bow, Seaton, Brock, all sorts of people getting stuck into that battle there. 2 Nissans disappearing into the distance, but there were locked wheels and bits of plastic flying everywhere. And emerging in 3rd place, it would be Seaton from Percy in 4th, then Brock, then John Bow, Dick Johnson. I think Bow was the loser in that scrape.
Yes, he was caught on the wrong side of the track for the turn. But Win Percy has moved up right on the tail here of Glenn Seaton and the Peter Jackson Sierra. Brocky is the next one, followed by Bow. Then right behind him, of course, is Johnson. Tony Longhurst, the next one on the queue, then Larry Perkins.
Certainly we saw the Nissan look very strong here last year on its debut, and they're looking equally as strong here this year, but the battle behind them should be very intense. Qualifying times suggest that these guys are very evenly matched, and we should be in for a great battle.
If you notice through the left-hander coming onto the pit straight that time, when Percy's inside front came off the ground, it actually stops. A bit of brake bind going on there. There's a howling gale at Mallala today. We had some spots of rain about 15-20 minutes ago. Our commentary point's going to blow over before the 50 minutes is up. And it'll be interesting to see whether the weather conditions have any bearing on the outcome of this race.
Once again, through the tight part of the course, the 2 Nissans continue to run away from Glenn Seaton. The Peter Jackson Sierra, car number 30, behind him Win Percy. A lot of speculation here today that Win Percy returning to the UK at the end of the season, and a new lead driver perhaps to replace Win for next year. And the hot gossip around the pit area seems to suggest it's Jimmy Richards.
What I can confirm as we look at John Bow having a look down the inside of Peter Brock is that just a few moments ago Alan Grice has been confirmed as that front left wheel stops again in mid-air. Alan Grice is confirmed as Win Percy's replacement at the next round of the championship at Lakeside, with Percy going back to the UK to drive one of the TWR XJR15 Jaguars at the British Grand Prix. So Grice stepping in to replace Percy for one race.
Well, the Nissans, of course, got off the start. Here's the race cam shot of Peter Brock. Just watch the 2 Nissans away. Now Brocky grabs another one, goes after Glenn Seaton. Across to the left there is Win Percy, and they get into some heavy metal as they get into that right-hander. They straighten it out by the time it's left turn. And at that stage, Brock is able to sit right in behind Win Percy. That was a dynamic first turn.
Glenn Seaton again looking like the class of the Sierra set here at Mallala. Glenn always goes out and concentrates on getting the best race set up, and it's looking good at the moment, running the same tyres he ran at Winton, where he picked up a 3rd place on the podium.
He was very strong at Winton, but I spoke to him after the Amaru performance. He was very disappointed, but he said we didn't do anything different. It was the same strong package he's had at all of the other races, but they just couldn't come to terms with the sort of grip and chassis package that they wanted there. But he's really looking good at Mallala today. Percy right on his hammer in 4th position. A small gap then back to Peter Brock, and then the 2 Shell Sierras, Bow and Johnson.
Young Glenn really, I guess, has been the unsung hero. Most of the Sierra guys have been complaining about the Nissan since they arrived 12 months ago and falling to them regularly. Glenn has got on with the job of trying to put together a very effective package and has been the consistent runner behind the Nissans all season. He's yet to come up with a win, but he's been there to keep them honest throughout.
And 16 Commodore of Percy's using a different tyre this weekend. The tyres were tested by Alan Grice and Brad Jones at Lakeside a couple of days after the last round at Amaru Park, and it would appear as though there's certainly been some gains there. There's a big tyre war on between Yokohama, Bridgestone and Dunlop, each company working very hard with its Japanese engineering bases to come up with a better device.
Well, Dunlop have been putting different tyres to all their teams this weekend as they try to finalise their compound for Bathurst. Russell Stuckey of Dunlop said they have finalised that compound, so they should be set up by the time they get to Mount Panorama.
Peter Brock qualified well yesterday, starting out of position 5 here today, already ahead of the 2 Dick Johnson Shell Sierras. Tony Longhurst a little closer this time to Dick Johnson as they come along the back chute up to the very fast sweeping right-hander. Tony really hasn't been spotted off nobbies over the weekend after a brilliant last start victory at Amaru Park. Keep in mind, although this track is very, very tight, it's got a couple of straights in it, and the suggestion earlier today of maybe some late afternoon showers could have just about decimated the opposition with the 4-wheel drive Nissan that had to play in the rain.
As we've said a number of times throughout the season, though, Mike, no question that after 50 minutes of racing this little yellow cars, both Longhurst and Jones will be pretty strong packages towards the end. Tony's pace won't alter that much, where you can fully expect the Sierras and the Commodores to lose some ground. Look at this.
Now Wen, don't be tempted.
Very close as they came through the left-hander onto the pit straight. Glenn then skipping away. Great horsepower from the Peter Jackson car at the moment.
Isn't this Holden good under brakes, though?
Yeah, tremendous. There's no doubt that the work that's been done in that area on the Commodore is where a lot of the time has been found in the last couple of seasons. The car was very strong here last year in the old model VL. And for a car of such weight, it certainly confounds a lot of people.
I was surprised that Holden Racing Team were the only guys owning up to saying they were having a little bit of brake fade in qualifying, knowing how good the Holden's brakes are.
Peter Brock sitting right behind Win Percy. Percy's made a lunge or 2 at Glenn Seaton, but that's given Glenn to get along. He's cleared out a little, but Win closes it up yet again under brakes.
Peter Brock has certainly been the big improver over the last few rounds. He qualified only 0.2 of a second slower than Win Percy. That's the best benchmark he can have. Fiddling around with different things on the engine, and the car's certainly been transformed with some new tyres they've been developing with the Bridgestone company. So Brocky getting more and more competitive as the year goes on.
Down the pit straight again. That gap opens, as you can see. Seaton gets away with the turbo Ford. We take our Mobile 1 race cam now, riding with Peter Brock in the 05 car. He's sitting in behind Win Percy. You can see Percy is all over Glenn Seaton like a wet blanket. But Glenn gets that turbo power to the floor. He runs away from Win down the straight, but Win's able to close up again under brakes. Brock running position number 5 at the moment on the racetrack.
Closes up a bit under brakes on those 2 cars. Hear how the car was really snatching and misbehaving as it went through that hairpin right-hander in second gear. It doesn't really like first there, it's too low, and second's a little bit too high. Brock has to persevere with it. He chooses to go back through each of the gears, but he's certainly making plenty of ground, as you can see on Mobile Race Cam, under brakes on both Win Percy and Glenn Seaton. Working very hard through these S's. This brings you onto the start-finish straight. and then on for a fast right-hander. He's up to fourth gear now. Holds on to fourth through this right-hander. Car slips and slides, gets a bit taily, and then this sort of long, never-ending left-hander that brings you onto the pit straight as he rounds up John Vernon in the Toyota Corolla.
Yeah, John was the 12th starter in today's field in the Toyota, and had problems in practice and qualifying, but are able to get him back on the track this morning to take his place in the field.
And that's part of the battle for third, fourth and fifth. Seaton still holding third, apparently quite comfortably. Percy Central drop back a few car lengths, and Brock seems to be just climbing up onto the back of Percy's Holden Racing Team Commodore.
Starting to spread themselves just a little. Seaton third spot, very, very comfortable. There's Win Percy. Again, you'll notice the ground he makes up under brakes. And all the time, here's the man, number 2. Formerly from Wyong on the Central Coast, New South Wales. Now living in Melbourne, Mark Scaife. Youngster, great to see, a fresh young face in touring car racing with a good team, being given an opportunity. And I tell you what, he's grabbed this with both hands as we go to the Dunlop race cam with Dickie Johnson, and he's under siege from Tony Longhurst. This is good stuff too.
Here's a good example of what 600 horsepower can do for you with 10-inch tyres. Dick's got all the power in the world, and he is getting pasted by Tony Longhurst.
Now Tony will try and stick him here on the inside as they come out, but Dick's horsepower comes into play.
This is the battle for 7th and 8th position.
That's an example of what 600 horsepower can do for you as well. If you can actually get it to the road when you straighten up, it's quite reasonable.
Now watch this as Dick gets on the brakes, inch by inch by inch by inch. Longhurst closes on him.
See the ground Longhurst makes under brakes there.
Now he'll give Dick a terrible time. They'll have trying to get Dick's tyres to go off and then waltz past him and go chasing the next one up on the queue.
You can hear that time as Dick was changing up through the gears. He was actually getting wheel spin in either, I don't know, it might have been third or fourth. But that's how much horsepower these little cars have got. Look at Tony. I mean,
he's just having a fun time here today.
He's searching high and low for a place to go by.
Tony says he's suffering the same problems he had at Winton about as far as getting heat into the tyres. They've gone for a softer compound tyre, but because of this new resurfacing they've done at Mallala, he's still having trouble getting heat in it, but it doesn't look to be hindering him at the moment.
He's getting plenty of heat from other areas at the moment.
It's our race cam boys, Mark Woodley, Charles Busby and John Joyster, try to cover the every possible angle of the race for you here from Mallala, riding with Dick Johnson. Also with Mark Scaife this afternoon and Peter Brock.
The track's certainly in tremendous condition now that it's been resurfaced. A lot of the bumps have been ironed out, and all of the drivers are saying how much fun it is to drive on. It's been tidied up with proper edges and some ripple strips in places. You remember the old entrance to where you came on to where the pit straight is, everybody was in the gravel and there was no sort of definite line. If you wanted to, you could take to the dirt there and there wasn't any problem. That's all been stopped, thankfully. Look at Tony still pulling left and right, trying to find some fresh air. He'll eventually get it, but it's going to cost him quite a bit of time to get there. Notice the battle between the Holdens is hotting up between Percy and Brock as Scaife just blazes off into the distance. Tony decides to try and go the long way. More than anything, he's trying to aggravate Dick into a mistake, and that won't be hard to do because Johnson's an experienced pro, doesn't make too many blunders.
Here he comes rushing at him again under brakes. Ducks down the inside, tries to just nibble away at the inside as they come out of the turn. All that horsepower back into play again as Johnson runs up to the right-hand sweeper. Says goodbye, Tony, just for the moment. Now you would think that Johnson is comfortably running away until he puts the brakes on again, and back comes the BMW.
This is a tough job in a Sierra around this circuit. It's a real stop-go sort of place. Top speed of about 220 km in the main straight, but all these stop-go corners and with the explosive acceleration of a Sierra, very difficult thing to get out of the corner without spinning the tyres.
See how much later the brake lights come on with the BMW. Much lighter car, less horsepower, but it's actually got tyres as wide as the Sierra.
Dick's going to get the Victor Award shortly.
He's using plenty of scenery.
Two Nissans, 1 and 2. Scaife leads from Richards in In third place we have Seaton. Look at Tony once again. In fourth place it's Percy by a hair's breadth from Peter Brock. Then a gap back to John Bowe. This battle here, Dick Johnson and Tony Longhurst, followed by Larry Perkins.
Johnson's team also running a development Dunlop tyre, and these are very similar compound to they ran at Amaroo, which was a great improvement of the car, and they do seem to be quite consistent. Whether they'll be able to stand up to this sort of punishment for 50 minutes, only time will tell.
Behind Larry Perkins we have Colin Bond and Alan Jones, for those that are interested. And Alan's certainly a fair gap behind his teammate Tony Longhurst at the moment, which is unusual. Alan's performance at Amaroo was terrific.
Alan had a lousy qualifying time. He went out with a very light fuel load and ran out of fuel on his qualifying lap, so that's why he ended up down the back of the grid.
This is interesting. You notice Wyn Percy, who was sitting right on the tail of Glenn Seaton a few laps ago, has dropped back into the clutches of one Peter Brock, 0.5. So they have a lot of racing still to do. They're clear of John Bowe, Dick Johnson, and of course Tony Longhurst. They've spread themselves out fairly well. The Nissan number 2 car, Mark Scaife, still running strongly. Percy fourth on the road, and there's Brocky 0.5.
This will be a pretty critical comparison between Dunlop and Bridgestone. Percy on Dunlops and Brock on Bridgestone tyres. They're both going through development phases, and it'll be interesting to see the relative performances of these cars as the race wears on too.
You know that Peter's changed the setup on his car a number of times, working with Larry Perkins, and they've certainly improved their mousetrap, no doubt about it. It's a car's working much better than it did early in the year. It took them a long time. Strange, because Larry was really on the pace at the end of last season. He was the clear victor at Eastern Creek, and a great performance. When they built the new V in, they just had strife right from the word go, but it seems now that they're comfortable. They've got the balance they want, they've got the tyre package they want, and they're certainly right in this battle for lead Holden status, and right on the pace, full stop.
Down the start, finishing straight here at Mallala, 16 Wyn Percy, fourth. Really hiking the inside front wheel on the 16 Commodore. Peter Brock, pretty close to him. Let's check them out on the Shell race score for you. Mark Scaife is our race leader from teammate Jimmy Richards. Glenn Seaton third, Wyn Percy is fourth, Peter Brock is fifth, and Dickie Johnson, you've got it all still to... Back here at Mallala Raceway, Mark Scaife, car number 2, continues to lead round 7 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship.
Approaching the 20-minute mark now of round 7 of the Shell Australia Touring Car Championship, with Mark Scaife continuing to lead the pack. Car number 2, a comfortable margin over Jim Richards, and the gap increasing all the time. He'll be feeling pretty good about himself at the moment, Mark Scaife. Also contesting the Australian Drivers' Championship this year at Eastern Creek. The shutter coming back through the front wheels on the car. I wonder whether hear us this afternoon. Are you there, Scaife?
I can hear you, Crombo. How you going, mate? All right?
All right. Now, Richo's paid me a lot of money to talk to you for about 15 or 20 minutes to hold you up. You don't mind, do you?
I do mind, just a fraction, pal.
You're looking very good, Mark. Looking very comfortable.
Yeah, I suppose you can never disregard Richo. He never got to be one of the world's best touring car drivers, and probably Australia's best by accident. So we're just going to keep our head down, drive the car smooth, and see what happens.
How are your tyres shaping up at the moment?
I've chosen a fairly soft tyre, Neil, so I've just got to drive the car pretty straight. I think they should be fine, mate, over.
3 hard stops on this track. What about brakes?
Well, the brakes on our car, if you remember here last year, the brakes are very, very bad. The brakes on the car here today are fantastic, over.
All right, Mark, I know you're busy. I'm tempted to keep talking for a few minutes, but you'll get me later, so I'll let you go.
Thanks, buddy.
Bye.
Mark Scaife continues to lead. Let's take a look at the gap back to Jimmy Richards. It's a conclusive one, and widening, I would think, all the time. Third place held by Glenn Seaton. You'll be able to see the visual gap here as Glenn Seaton sooner or later, and it would seem later, will come into view. There's Glenn. The man that was making life uncomfortable for Glenn was Wyn Percy. There's Wyn, back 1 slot behind him. Peter Brock is next. Tony Longhurst. And then, of course, John Bow in the number 18 car. Team leader Dick Johnson in the 17 car, getting a little taily as he gets out of that turn. And that basically is your field.
Tony's done a terrific job. He's come from seemingly nowhere, and now he's starting to bother Peter Brock. I think before very long you'll find... Well, look, he goes straight up the inside. Tony Longhurst really moving in the BMW. Whammo. Mobile race cam shows the graphic action. Peter Brock that time goes back to first gear when he knew that another car was underneath him. And so now the BMW splits the two Holdens and Tony sets off after Win Percy. So that's 5th position for the BMW and counting.
Tony was saying yesterday he was looking forward to having a braking advantage over the bigger cars. That's a pretty good indication of how good it is.
It's not an advantage.
Well, you'll notice won't be too long before he's up on the tail here of Win Percy. So young Tony is attacking this, providing us with some entertainment this afternoon. As I said, 12 starters for today's round. Quality rather than quantity, as I understand the entrance group, or TCI, promising something like 61 starters or 61 entrants for this year's Tooheys 1000 at Bathurst. Perhaps they might be able to double the car count for the next round of the Touring Car Championship, because it has been a little sad on occasions. And these guys are the regulars. They're doing it, but they really do need another 15 or 18 cars of support as we catch Colin Bond in the Caltech CXT Sierra coming down the inside of Larry Perkins.
Bondy moves to 9th place and Larry goes back to 10th.
Tony the Giant Killer continues stalking Win Percy, car number 16, coming down to the entrance to the pit straight. Now Win hugging very tight through that turn. Now Longhurst getting right up behind him. Watch Longhurst close now as Win jumps on the brakes. Straight up on the inside.
The initial stopping doesn't seem to be much different, does it? But then right when you get close to the corner, the BM's outstanding. The HRT Commodore looking pretty good. I think Win's given him a signal.
Yeah, he just did then.
The second HRT car's now been built, and it's actually here in the paddock at Mallala. Here goes Longhurst up the inside. Win's given him all the room in the world. It's an easier way than having to argue over it. I think Win recognised that the BM was going to be stronger at the end of the straight. So Tony Longhurst now moves up one more digit to 4th.
Back in the field, carrying out Dunlop race cam 17, Dick Johnson. Blimey, mate, you've given them a start.
You better believe it. I tell you what, though, hopefully it'll be different later on when we get to Bathurst, I tell you.
How disappointing, truly, is all this, week after week, seeing the Nissans disappear into the distance?
Well, it's a bit demoralising, especially for the crew, because they probably do more work than any of the other guys, but obviously don't get the results at the moment.
So feasibly, Dick, the only track that maybe you and Holden have of keeping the Nissans in check is Mount Panorama?
Yeah, you better believe it. I think the four-wheel drive's not such an equation up there, but I think we'll do reasonably well.
Ooh, the rears were really locked up on Glenn's car that time, and I think that, if anything, Glenn's lost a bit of ground. Did you notice that both Tony Longhurst and Win Percy are closer to the back of the number 30 Peter Jackson car?
Nicky Johnson, car number 17, just spoke to a second or so back. Continues on running in 8th, coming down to the right-hander at the end of the pits.
Shell team have had a fairly troubled lead up to the race. Johnson split a radiator on a curb earlier in the week and had to replace an engine. John Bow blew another engine yesterday, so they're still having a few problems, the Shell team, trying as hard as ever. As the Sierra...
Let's have a look at this episode with Dick, after we stopped talking to him, and he just got it off the road just a touch. Oh, now it's getting tight.
Well, Percy's brought right into this.
Oh, look at this, look at this. This is the David and Goliath stuff, getting holded on the inside. One wheel up on the curb, he does, and he could leave himself exposed to Percy. Look at this.
Geez, Wynn got a good run out of that corner too.
Agro City.
He moves across to cover his ground.
They all went on, simultaneously went on the attack and the defence. They had to have road maps to make it down.
Yeah, they threw the cards in the air and no one knew where they were going to fall. But that was a brilliant passing move from Tony Longhurst. He set that up. But now he's left Win Percy with the problem of Glenn Seek. And they've had a couple of touches during the season.
What we're watching, I guess, is what the creators of Group A wanted all along. There's 3 different manufacturers and 3 very different types of cars all battling, and it's great stuff.
Round the outside.
Look at this. Round the outside. What a move. He's got to hold it for the next one, though.
Unbelievable.
Oh, this seat fighting back.
He made the corner just a little wider for him.
Glenn ended up out in the dirt trying to hold his position there. That was amazing. That was Glenn going major defence and trying to take a tight line back at that hairpin and went right round the outside.
So to suggest too, Percy's still got a fair bit of life in his tyres. But that little tussle has allowed Longhurst to gain a car length or 2.
He's gone from 5th to 3rd. It's a fact. Sweeping on to the back straight. Richards with a stranglehold on the championship. But I guess if Seaton, if Mark Scaife could put together a couple of victories before season's end, they might make it very interesting when they go to the grand final. But I tell you what, Jim hasn't got the huge break that you would think over Tony Longhurst, has he?
No.
There's Longhurst going through. Win Percy's there, and so too is Glenn Seaton.
Just I had to try and get my bearings again then to try and figure out who was where. But I think you're right. I think they're closing up on to the back of Jim quite rapidly at the moment. Winston, car 16. And he's up onto the back now of Larry Perkins. Tony Longhurst has skipped away and opened the gap. Seaton in behind Wynn, and Peter Brock lurking there in the background. Remember that Perkins on fresher tyres, a lap or perhaps more down. Headlights ablaze. So Longhurst in 3rd place. Looks like being the familiar 3 faces.
Beautiful inside pass. Yeah. Almost achieved by Win Percy. See if Larry leaves him a little gap here as they run through the sweeper. Oh, he didn't, but Win took it anyway. Last lap board coming out now for Mark Scaife. Number 2, Nissan. Gee, what a race he's driven here today at Mallala. Bolted off the starting line to lead teammate Jim Richards, has disappeared into the distance throughout this race. Chose a soft compound tyre, so he's had to drive the car very, very straight, very neat, be very precise about the car, which he has done. Now he's moving up to put a lap on some slower cars as he comes down towards the end of the back straight. Colin Bond, Alan Jones are just ahead of him. They're running towards the tail end of the field as Scaife comes through this sweeper. Car number 2 down towards the chicane for the final time. The youngster with a ton of potential and could go on if he can display this form. Last corner coming up, round number 7 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. The checkered flag, Nissan, that's his car. And of course, Mark Scaife is across the line for a win here today. 2nd place is going to go to Jim Richards. We'll show you the gap as they come across the line. Richards in the number 1 car will take 2nd place. Here's Jimmy. And here's the giant killer. Tony Longhurst from well back in the pack is going to pick up 3rd. But the race had perhaps gone a few more laps. We could have seen that challenge on Jim Richards. 4th across the line is in fact going to be Win Percy in the Holden Racing Team entry. 5th, of course, Glenn Seaton and the Peter Jackson Ford Sierra. Let's check them out for you finally on the Shell race score. Mark Scaife confirmed the winner. Jimmy Richards, a 1-2 for Nissan here today. Tony Longhurst, a deserving 3rd place getter. Win Percy finishes in 4th. And Glenn Seaton in car number 30 rounds out the 5.
Same 3 faces, but once again the order's been revised very slightly. The man that provided tremendous action in those closing laps, Tony Longhurst for 3rd place. Gee, that was a hard drive. You did a great job. Well done.
I'm not feeling too good, Neil. I'm pretty well whacked.
Yeah, you gave some great entertainment though. There was some good stuff with Wynn, with Glenn Seaton, and then towards the end, very close to Jim.
Yeah, well, I think you must have missed the first few laps with Dick, like we're side by side and under brakes, but yeah, we just got a sensational little car. It ran faultlessly. Poor old AJ looks like he's broken a valve spring or something. His car was missing up top end, which is a bit disappointing, but just wrapped in the result. I didn't expect to get in the top 3 here.
Looking forward to Lakeside?
Yeah, I just can't wait. We've got some good tyres now from Yokohama, a little bit softer, and we'll keep the Nissan boys really on their toes up there.
Okay, that's one to look forward to. Tony Longhurst third today in round 7. Second place goes to Jimmy Richards. Well done, Jim.
Thank you, mate.
Good drive, but you couldn't bridge the gap to Mark. Was there a problem, or did he have a better setup, or simply drive better?
No, he just drove better on the day. Yes, I couldn't do anything about it, and I slowly drifted back into Tone's clutches.
Yeah, it looked like you were going to be under some pressure there in the closing laps.
I think I might have had it just covered.
Well and truly in control.
Yeah.
Jim, what about Lakeside? Can you fend the BMW off?
Well, we'd like to think so. We did last time, so I think our cars will be running a little bit better, but hopefully, yes.
Thanks, Jimmy. Second place today, and the victor, congratulations, Mark Scaife. Wonderful performance, Mark. You were disappointed at Amaroo, but you must be very pleased with this.
Yeah, thanks, Crompo. I think it's a good birthday present for the car this weekend. If you remember, a year ago the car was fast enough but not reliable enough, and today it's been plenty good enough.
Yeah, you just got away there, settled down into a pace. You even had time to talk to us.
Yeah, actually, I thought you were going to talk to me for lap after lap after lap.
Richo paid me.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. Yeah, I'll talk to you about that later.
Tom Smith to make the presentation from the Shell Company of Australia.
On behalf of Shell, congratulations on the magnificent drive.
Thanks, Tom.
And Mark, you'd be looking forward to Queensland as well.
Yeah, I think, you know, last time up there it was a fantastic race, and I'm sure the little BMW will be more and more hard to beat up there. I think that, you know, our tyre package last time was a little bit hard to run for that lap, and you know, it should be a great race.
Great race today from Mark Scaife. And now, Mike Raymond, what's that done to the points table?
Well, the points may have changed, but the faces are the same. Jimmy Richards continues to lead the championship. Teammate Mark Scaife in a very solid second place. The rest of the teams, they have a lot of work to do. Hope you've enjoyed today's telecast. We look forward to your company for the penultimate round of the championship 3 weeks from today. We look forward to your company then.